Welcome back, culinary courtesans. The Ninja Chef is back in the kitchen. What are we doing today? Well, I figured, since I still have all of this raw dough left from my experiment 2 days ago, I basically just took an entire bag of flour, mixed in some water, mixed in some active dry yeast, and just got it out of the way since I still have an entire other bag of flour. I still have all this active dry yeast. I start working my way through homemade bread. And there's still a ton of this left. If I'm not mistaken, it's still actually growing. So that's what happens with bread, is if you leave it alone, it will continue to grow. So I've got a ton of bread. And I've got to think of something to do with it. Well, the idea hit me. I tried making a giant muffin. I tried making a loaf of bread and it ended up becoming a giant muffin using my, one second, using this and an oven. Didn't work too well, but that's why it's a bread experiment. Then I took some, flattened it out, put it into a skillet, and fried it up. I made a really nice pita. That was a success. So, well, I got my old, well-used muffin tin. So, let's give that a try. Give it a quick rinse off. And since we are dealing with food, I'll do a quick rinse off of my own hands. And this experiment's going to be really, really simple. Since all we're going to do is apply some cooking spray into my non-stick pan here. I'm going to preset my oven to 300 degrees. Double checking to make sure there isn't anything in there. Just spray it. Done. Again, we're not doing anything fancy. These are just experiments in cooking. Take our dough. Pinch off a good sized chunk. And we're just going to pinch these chunks into about the size of half of the pan of each little cup here. Nothing horribly fancy, and we're going to try and make actual muffins as opposed to a loaf of bread that turned into a giant muffin. Another chunk. Drop it in there. Nothing horribly fancy, as you can see. We'll cook it for about 20 minutes. Since dough does tend to rise, my thoughts are that it will rise, obviously, producing some, well, muffins, and hopefully they won't be too thick like the bread was. They'll be nice and light and fluffy, since they're going to increase to twice their size. That should mean they're pretty airy. But the main reason I was using the flour that I was using is because it's standard flour. It's not bread flour, so it does run thick. And that was a mistake I made way back when I got that bread. Because for the types of things I like to make bread with, you know, pizza, cakes, falafels, stuff like that, you want a lighter bread, you want the double O bread, you want bread flour as opposed to whole flour, which is what I got. Unfortunately, I got whole flour. However, as you can see here, this other one is bread flour. So stuff I make with that should be a lot airier in the future. Like I still need a bit of my dough, which is good. I need to use up this dough before it continues to grow and increase again, because that is what yeast does. If you leave your bread unattended in a temperate environment, you know, warmish, it will continue to grow and expand indefinitely, because you know it's a wheat germ, and it just continues to rapidly multiply as it feeds off of the moisture and the warmth in the air. So yeah, in theory, if you were to leave your bread out, you know, properly covered so it doesn't get that weird, you know, top layer of crust, ugly crustiness, it would continue to grow indefinitely, and you could, given the right environment, you could theoretically walk into your house and just be, you know, suffocated by a giant bread mass. But that would take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. And when you stick them in the refrigerator, it retards their growth. But they still do grow. So, with that all said and done, we have our set of 12 muffins to be. There's one of them that's a bit low, so I'm going to add a bit more bread to it. Even them out a bit, flatten them out a bit. Nothing horribly fancy. Some are a little bit lower than others, but we'll see which ones work best. Stick it in. There it is. And I'll let it cook for about 20 minutes. I'll be back. I will stop the video. I will pause the video, and we will be back in 20 minutes when that bread is done. So, with that said, I'll see you all in just a moment. Welcome back, culinary connoisseurs. And let's see the results. It looks like my little bread muffins are ready. So we're going to take them out of the oven. This is going to be extremely hot since I am taking them out of an oven. So, gotta be a little careful. They look pretty good. They all rose a bit. You know, obviously the smaller ones didn't rise as much. None of them have really gone brown, but as you can see, I have tasted one. I've taken one out and tasted it, and it does taste. It is cooked all the way through, so obviously I tasted that one. So let's look at our final result, shall we, of this culinary experiment? Just going to knife them into my bowl. They're basically little bread bombs, I guess would be the term. That one's still a bit stuck. Give me a moment. take this and put it into my sink. Let that run. And as you can see, we end up with these tasty looking little bread muffins. Now, for what I'm going to do with these, very simple. Slice in half. Take some of my blueberry jam, put that in the center. Got some butter, and I've got some cinnamon. I'll do one for display, and then the rest I guess I'll just do off camera. Little hint of butter. And a pinch of cinnamon on top. And the result is that. So, that is the end of today's culinary escapade. I'll go and prepare the rest of these and have something to eat. And for the future, if anyone wants to create something similar, go ahead. Oh, actually, let's take one stop. I should probably give it a taste test, right? Definitely tasty. It's really not all that different than just having jelly on a slice of bread, but it does have a nice, and of course it's got a bit of cinnamon on it. So it's not too dissimilar from a sandwich, but the bread is nice and warm, fresh out of the oven. So that does add a bit more of a, it does make it a little bit more tasty, since you have fresh bread right out of the oven as opposed to cold store-bought bread. But that's really about it. It's the same as a jelly sandwich. See you in the funny papers.